No one understands the true meaning of Dr. Stone. Most fans think this series is simply about the power of science, how humanity's accumulated knowledge can overcome any obstacle. And while that's definitely part of Dr. Stone's main theme, it's only one piece of a much larger and more powerful theme that everyone overlooks. The real theme of Dr. Stone isn't just about the power of science. It's a celebration of all of humanity's excellence. This celebration starts as early as the very first chapter. Right after humanity is petrified, we're introduced to three young men who each represent a fundamental pillar of humanity's excellence. Senku embodies the excellence of humanity's wisdom and intellect. Tsukasa represents the excellence of humanity's physical strength. And Teiju symbolizes the excellence of humanity's unbreakable willpower and fighting spirit, that raw drive that pushes us to do intense, back-breaking labor and build civilization from nothing. The first few chapters of the manga instantly show us three different forms of humanity's excellence. This is a celebration of excellence that starts as early as the first chapter with Senku and Teiju and is tightly woven throughout the whole story. As the great philosopher Socrates once said, "True greatness is not found in any single gift, but in the harmony of all humanity's excellences working together as one." What's up, everyone? I'm Kisaki, a man of science and someone who genuinely loves great manga. Dr. Stone is easily one of my favorite series of all time, not just because I love science, but because it carries one of the most empowering messages in manga. This isn't a story that only speaks to people who are scientifically minded. It speaks to anyone who strives for excellence in any area of expertise. But before we go any further, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're about to get into it. My master Socrates will beat me if I don't gain at least 1,000 subscribers from this video, so you guys gotta help me out. Jokes aside, get excited, because today I'm going to scientifically prove what Dr. Stone is truly about and how it's a theme woven into the entire story from the very beginning to the very end. Dr. Stone begins with a simple but devastating premise. One day, a mysterious phenomenon turns all of humanity into stone. Thousands of years pass and civilization completely collapses, leaving behind only remnants of what once was. When humanity is finally revived, the world has reset to zero, no technology, no infrastructure, no society. From that point forward, the goal is clear. Rebuild everything from scratch, step by step, through the power of excellent individuals collaborating together. At the center of this story is Senku Ishigami, a super genius who represents all of humanity's wisdom. Senku's goal is not just survival. He wants to restore all of human civilization, recreating thousands of years of scientific progress from nothing. Senku wants to save everyone and rebuild civilization. However, what becomes immediately clear is that Senku cannot do this alone. This is where Teiju becomes essential. Teiju is not intelligent, but he represents something just as important to humanity: willpower and a strong work ethic. He can perform intense manual labor for extended periods of time, something Senku simply cannot do, and without that support, many of Senku's plans would never even begin. At the same time, Tsukasa plays a completely different but equally critical role. In a world that has reverted to a primitive state, danger is constant, and Senku is not someone who can defend himself. Tsukasa, as the strongest fighter in the series, provides protection and ensures that Senku's work can continue without being interrupted by external threats. His role in the early stages of the story highlights something important. Strength is just as necessary as intelligence when it comes to survival and progress. What this shows us right from the very beginning is that Dr. Stone is not simply a story about the power of science. It is a story about the power of collaboration. It's often said that knowledge is power, but I would say that is incomplete. The application of knowledge is power. Senku may be the brain behind the operation, but without Teiju's labor and Tsukasa's strength, his knowledge would remain theoretical, unable to manifest in the real world. Each of them represents a different form of excellence. Wisdom, willpower, and strength. And it is only through the cooperation between these three excellent individuals that progress becomes possible. This reflects a much larger truth about humanity itself. Modern civilization was never built by one type of person. It was built through the combined efforts of individuals with different strengths, working together toward a common goal. In the same way, rebuilding civilization in Dr. Stone requires that same level of collaboration between excellent individuals, each contributing what they are best at. However, things for Senku don't go so smoothly. Dr. Stone shows the power of collaboration, but it also shows us the struggle of conflict that happens between different people, which hinders collaboration and progress. Senku and Tsukasa part ways, and this is where the story of Dr. Stone flips. This is no longer a simple story about three great men rebuilding civilization from scratch. Instead, it becomes a battle manga that shows that excellent collaboration is not always easy. Because people who have big differences in ideology are always bound to oppose each other. Senku and Tsukasa end their collaboration and fight each other due to a difference in ideology. Senku believes in rebuilding civilization through science and reviving all of humanity, while Tsukasa believes in creating a new world by selectively reviving only the pure-hearted, rejecting the old society entirely. This fundamental disagreement makes coexistence impossible, forcing Senku into hiding as he begins working toward his goal from the shadows. This leads directly into the Ishigami village arc, where Senku stumbles upon one of the last surviving human communities. At first, he's treated as an outsider, and the village operates under its own traditions and rules, including a strict leadership system determined through combat. Senku quickly realizes that if he wants to gain their trust and support, he can't rely on intellect alone. Instead, he begins introducing them to science in a way they can understand, starting with simple but impactful inventions like medicine, food improvements, and basic technology. Senku uses the power of science, which to these cavemen comes across as a miracle, as if Senku is a prophet from God sent to bring wisdom and miracles to people in need. Senku gives the gift of science to these cavemen, and they eventually proclaim Senku as their village chief because of how much he's helped them. One of the first major turning points comes when Senku cures Ruri, the village priestess, using antibiotics. This moment establishes the power of science not as witchcraft, but as something that can perform natural miracles and save lives. On top of that, Senku enters the village tournament, not through brute strength, but through strategy, ultimately securing a position of influence. This allows him to become the village chief, and together with these cavemen, he will begin accelerating technological progress. As the arc continues, Senku builds a network of allies, each contributing in their own way. Characters like Kohaku, Jinro, Kinro, and Suika all play roles, but more importantly, the arc emphasizes that progress isn't a solo effort. The creation of things like glass, weapons, and communication tools all require coordination, effort, and trust. Every advancement becomes a group achievement rather than an individual one. This is where the theme of collaboration becomes central. The entire goal of the arc is for Senku to work with the village so he can tap into the full power of humanity. By sharing science with them, he isn't just teaching, they're building something together. Science becomes the bridge that connects different types of excellence into one unified force. Keisuke is one of the clearest examples of this idea. Even though Senku understands the theory behind his inventions, he can't physically create them alone. Keisuke, as a master craftsman, is the one who brings those ideas to life. His skill shows that knowledge means very little without the ability to execute it, reinforcing that intelligence and craftsmanship must work together. Chrome represents another side of this collaboration. Even before meeting Senku, Chrome was independently exploring the world through experimentation and curiosity. His character proves that the drive for discovery is something inherent to humanity. Science doesn't begin with knowledge, it begins with curiosity, and Chrome embodies that perfectly. The climax of the arc ties everything together through the story of Senku's father, Byakuya. Through a recorded message and the history of the village itself, it's revealed that Ishigami Village exists because of Byakuya's efforts to preserve humanity after the petrification event. The village isn't just a random settlement, it's a gift, passed down across generations to support the future. This moment reframes everything Senku has accomplished, showing that he was never truly working alone. This entire village existing is the collaboration between Senku and his own father. A powerful collaboration between two excellent men spanning across millennia. In the end, the Ishigami village arc becomes a powerful demonstration of collaboration at every level. It's not just Senku rebuilding civilization through science, but a collective effort involving past and present, intellect and labor, curiosity and skill. The arc shows that humanity's true strength doesn't come from any single trait, but from how those traits come together. The Ishigami village arc doesn't just stand on its own, it directly builds toward the inevitable conflict with Tsukasa. While Senku is developing science and forming alliances, Tsukasa is doing the exact same thing on his side, but with a completely different goal in mind. Instead of rebuilding the old world, Tsukasa is creating a new empire by reviving only those he believes are worthy and pure of heart, while steadily growing his own power and influence. Through Senku's collaboration with Ishigami Village, he prepares for an all-out war with Tsukasa. The creation of communication tools, weapons, and most importantly, the cell phone, marks a major turning point. It shows that Senku isn't just surviving anymore, he's preparing. At the same time, the tension between Senku and Tsukasa continues to grow, even from a distance. Their ideological clash is no longer theoretical. It's becoming something that will have to be resolved through all-out war. Both sides are building towards something bigger, gathering allies and strengthening their positions. By the final moments of Season 1, it's clear that conflict is unavoidable. Senku has built the kingdom of science, while Tsukasa has established his own empire rooted in strength and purity. What started as a difference in ideology is now shaping into a full-scale confrontation, setting the stage for the war that unfolds in the Stone Wars arc of Season 2. The Stone Wars is where Dr. Stone fully transforms from a survival story into a clash of ideologies. The kingdom of science versus the Tsukasa Empire. The philosophical war between wanting to save everyone and only wanting salvation for the pure hits its climax during the Stone Wars arc. Senku's goal is not to physically defeat Tsukasa in a show of physical dominance, but rather to defeat him ideologically and bring him back to the kingdom of science. Senku understands something fundamental. Humanity's excellence is at its strongest when it is united, not divided. Even though Tsukasa stands in direct opposition to him, Senku never abandons the idea that Tsukasa is still a necessary part of the future. This is why every scientific advancement, every alliance, and every strategy in the arc ultimately moves toward one goal, not destruction, but reconciliation. What I personally find very emotional and inspiring about the Stone Wars arc is it reveals how truly heroic Senku is. Despite going into literal war with Tsukasa, he vows never to kill anyone in this war. While characters may decide to never kill others in 1v1 battles, I've never before seen a protagonist go into a war and decide that he and everyone in his army must spare and show mercy to every single enemy soldier. This all goes back to Senku's ideology of wanting to save everyone. Because he wants to save everyone, he refuses for anyone to die even in times of war. This shows that rebuilding humanity isn't the limit of Senku's goal. Senku wants to rebuild civilization where all people can peacefully collaborate together and have their individual excellence shine. As the arc progresses, the power of collaboration becomes impossible to ignore. Senku's kingdom of science grows not because of force, but because people with different strengths come together. Even individuals from Tsukasa's side like Gen, Ukko Seonji, and Nikki Hanada begin to shift towards Senku's vision. They recognize that the kingdom of science is not built on exclusion, but on inclusion, the desire to save every last human. Senku's ultimate victory over Tsukasa is not one of power, but of truth. Through science, he is able to grant Tsukasa his deepest wish, reviving his sister, proving that science is not just a tool for progress, but a miracle that can restore what was lost. More importantly, this moment forces Tsukasa to confront the limitations of his own ideology. He sees that humanity's greatness does not come from removing its flaws, but from embracing its full range of strengths. By the end of the Stone Wars, Tsukasa joins the kingdom of science, not because he was defeated physically, but because he was convinced philosophically. This is the culmination of the arc's central idea, that there is a place in civilization for all people, not just those who are deemed to be pure of heart. By reviving Tsukasa's sister, Tsukasa realizes that there is a value in Senku and his ideology, and that is why, without bloodshed, he decides it would be better to ally himself with Senku. I personally believe that Tsukasa surrenders because, through this war, where Senku spared and showed compassion even to enemy soldiers, Tsukasa sees Senku's pure heart and the value of his ideology. Just when it feels like the conflict has finally been resolved and humanity is beginning to move forward together, the story flips. Dr. Stone delivers a turning point that reframes everything. The alliance between Senku and Tsukasa represents the unification of different forms of excellence, intellect, and strength, finally working toward the same goal. But that fragile unity is immediately tested when Hyuga reveals the true extreme of Tsukasa's ideology. Unlike Tsukasa, who believed in a pure world, Hyuga believes only in power in a world where the strong dominate and the weak are discarded without hesitation. And to prove that belief, he targets the very thing that defines Tsukasa's love of purity, his sister. Hyuga's decision to attack Tsukasa's sister is not random violence, it is ideological. He understands that Tsukasa's desire for a pure world is rooted in compassion, in his love for his sister, and in the part of him that values protecting others rather than ruling over them. By attempting to kill her, Hyuga is trying to erase that side of Tsukasa completely, forcing the world into a brutal hierarchy of strength alone. In that moment, Tsukasa does what he has always done. He protects not as a conqueror but as a brother, and he takes the fatal blow meant for her, dying not as an enemy, but as someone who chose others over himself. Tsukasa's death is tragic. Senku is confronted with a loss that science cannot immediately fix. Senku does not accept Tsukasa's death as the natural end of things, nor does he allow himself to move on as if this is something unavoidable. Instead, he focuses on analyzing the situation with the same relentless mindset that has driven him from the beginning, and he arrives at a conclusion that shifts the entire direction of the story. If petrification was able to preserve humanity for thousands of years, then it may be the only way to preserve Tsukasa now. This moment transforms Senku's goal entirely, because understanding petrification is no longer just about curiosity or progress. It becomes personal, urgent, and necessary in a way it never was before, as the mystery behind the phenomenon now holds the only possible path to saving Tsukasa's life. And with that, the story moves forward into its next phase, not just driven by the ambition to rebuild civilization, but by the need to uncover the truth behind petrification itself. Season 3 of Dr. Stone, the new World Saga starts with the goal of wanting to uncover the mystery of petrification, a mystery that we've wanted to know since the beginning of the series, and to save Tsukasa, a close friend and rival of Senku who has also been integral to the story since the beginning. What was once a distant question has now become a direct objective, and that shift gives this entire saga a new sense of purpose. Every step forward from now on is about solving the core mystery that the entire story of Dr. Stone was built upon. The Age of Exploration arc represents a massive shift in scale, as the Kingdom of Science moves beyond rebuilding and begins expanding outward into the unknown world. Up until this point, progress has been localized, built within villages and controlled environments, but now the goal is global. This expansion immediately reinforces the idea that no matter how advanced Senku is intellectually, he cannot achieve this alone, and that reality is what leads to one of the most important character introductions in the entire series, Ryusui. Ryusui embodies a completely different form of human excellence, one that Senku fundamentally lacks, and that is mastery over exploration and navigation. As an elite sailor, his skills are absolutely essential because without him, the Kingdom of Science quite literally cannot move forward into the wider world. Senku may have the knowledge to rebuild civilization, but Ryusui is the one who makes it possible to spread that civilization across the planet, making him a critical piece in the mission to revive all of humanity. However, the true thematic weight of Ryusui's character goes far beyond his technical skill, and instead centers on his philosophy of desire. At first glance, Ryusui appears selfish, openly embracing greed and even going as far as reintroducing currency into this new world, something that seems completely counter to the idea of unity. But as the arc progresses, it becomes clear that his understanding of desire is actually one of the most unifying ideas in the entire story. For Ryusui, desire is not something to suppress but something to harness, because it is the driving force behind all human action. People work, create, and push forward not just out of obligation, but because they want something, and when those desires are aligned, they naturally bring people together. In that sense, desire becomes the mechanism through which individual strengths combine, allowing humanity to become something greater than the sum of its parts. This idea has always existed within Dr. Stone, but Ryusui is the one who brings it to the forefront clearly and deliberately. Even back in Ishigami village, Senku was uniting people by tapping into what they wanted, whether it was food, safety, or a better life, and using that to drive collective action. Ryusui simply makes that process explicit, showing that progress is not just built on logic or survival, but on the alignment of human ambition itself. At this stage of the story, the Kingdom of Science has grown into a fully functioning system, and that growth shifts the narrative focus away from Senku as an individual. While he remains the central mind behind the operation, much of the actual progress is now carried out by the group as a whole, with different members contributing their own expertise. This reinforces the core theme once again, that true advancement is not the result of a single genius, but of a collaborative network of excellent individuals working together. The introduction of Why Man further solidifies this shift by giving the entire world a singular, unifying objective. For the first time, the mystery of petrification is given a face, or at least the suggestion of one, and that pushes the Kingdom of Science into a more organized and strategic phase. This is where the five wise commanders, Senku, Ryusui, Ukko, Chrome, and Gen, come into play, representing a concentrated form of humanity's intellectual and strategic excellence. Among them, Gen stands out in a unique way, because while he may not appear to contribute through traditional science, he represents a completely different but equally critical field, the social sciences. His understanding of human behavior, persuasion, and communication makes him essential for expanding the kingdom of science, as progress is not just about invention, but about getting people to believe in and support that progress. This has been evident since earlier arcs, where he was able to sway individuals like Nikki. But in the age of exploration and beyond, his role becomes even more significant. Gen's ability to navigate social situations allows the group to avoid unnecessary conflict and build alliances in ways that brute force or logic alone could not achieve. At the same time, his willingness to lie and manipulate when necessary adds a layer of complexity to the idea of human excellence, showing that progress is not always morally clean. In this sense, he acts as a darker counterpart to Senku, representing the shadow to his light and reinforcing the idea that rebuilding civilization requires not just truth and logic, but an understanding of human nature in all its complexity. Gen and Senku are the shadow and light duo of humanity's wisdom. Senku represents humanity's understanding of how the world works, and Gen's represents understanding of the humanities and psychology. Following the age of exploration, the kingdom of science begins chasing a specific lead connected to the mystery of petrification. This journey eventually brings them to the origin point tied to Byakuya's past, leading them across the ocean toward an unknown destination, Treasure Island. The premise of the Treasure Island arc is simple on the surface, but incredibly dense in execution, as it centers entirely around uncovering how petrification works. Everything about the island is connected to that mystery, from its people to the petrification device itself, and this makes it the most direct confrontation with the unknown force that started the series. However, what makes this arc so powerful is that its motivation is deeply personal, because at the core of all this exploration is the desire to save Tsukasa. The initial reason they go to Treasure Island is to obtain platinum, a material that Byakuya hinted at in the 100 Tales to be on Treasure Island. With platinum, they could create an endless supply of nitric acid, a key component in the revival fluid formula. This will allow Senku to achieve his ultimate goal of restoring humanity and even save Tsukasa's life once they understand the secrets to petrification. As soon as they arrive on the island, the story flips. The situation immediately spirals out of control in a way that directly challenges the Kingdom of Science's greatest strength. A large portion of their forces is instantly petrified, leaving behind only a small group, Senku, Gen, Kohaku, Suika, and Jinro, to deal with an entirely new and hostile environment. This moment is critical because it strips away the collaborative foundation that Senku has been building since the beginning, forcing him back into a situation similar to Episode 1, where he appears isolated and outnumbered. The first half of the arc is defined by this loss, as the objective shifts away from confrontation and toward restoring their allies, reinforcing the idea that Senku alone is not enough to achieve victory. After this, the first thing they do is recruit allies from the island itself to have insider knowledge on how to navigate the complexities of this island. Characters like Kohaku and Jinro help a lot at this stage for helping Senku get Ryusui back, and for obtaining the platinum for the revival fluid. But within this struggle, Gen's importance becomes even more apparent, as his expertise in social dynamics becomes a key factor in survival. Unlike Senku, who approaches problems through logic and science, Gen understands people, and that allows the group to navigate the complex social structure of the island without immediately provoking conflict. His ability to deceive, negotiate, and adapt becomes essential when dealing with powerful figures like Maz, where a single mistake could lead to complete destruction. At the same time, his willingness to lie when necessary highlights a more nuanced aspect of collaboration, showing that rebuilding civilization requires not just truth and logic, but also manipulation and strategy when the situation demands it. As the arc transitions into its second half, the conflict evolves into something much more intense and cerebral, shifting from survival to direct confrontation with Ibara and the petrification device. This is where the arc transforms into a battle of intellect, resembling a clash between two opposing forms of power, logical science versus an advanced, almost incomprehensible weapon. Senku is actively trying to outthink an opponent who holds a technological advantage, and this creates a high-stakes battle driven by strategy and precision rather than brute force. On top of that, Ibara is incredibly intelligent despite being a caveman. While he doesn't have scientific knowledge, he is a master of logic itself. Ibara is a genius tactician and wields a device that could take out Senku and his remaining crew in an instant. I personally love versus battles, and I've personally always wondered who would win in a battle of wits, Senku or Light Yagami. During the war arc against Ibara, we get to see how such a battle would play out. Similar to Light Yagami's Death Note, Ibara also contains an item that could instantly take out any opponent who opposes him. Ibara is about as great of a tactician as Light Yagami, so this all-out battle of wits in Treasure Island becomes an epic battle between two genius commanders. And in a long and painful battle, it is Senku who defeats Ibara in the end. This showcases Senku as the absolute smartest character in anime, because even a character who resembles Light Yagami couldn't defeat Senku and his genius. However, Senku couldn't beat Ibara alone. What ultimately allows Senku to win is the restoration of collaboration itself. As more members of the Kingdom of Science are revived, their individual strengths begin to reassemble into a unified force, and even former enemies like Hyuga play a crucial role in turning the tide. This reinforces the central theme once again, showing that no matter how brilliant Senku is, his true power comes from the people around him, and that victory is always a collective achievement rather than an individual one. By the end of the arc, there is a quiet but powerful moment where Senku reflects on everything that has happened, briefly feeling as though he is alone again, just like he was at the very beginning of the series. But this time, that feeling doesn't last, because he realizes that he is no longer starting from zero, and that the bonds he has built through collaboration are still there, supporting him even when it seems like they're gone. It's a subtle but meaningful reminder of how far the story has come, not just in terms of technology, but in terms of human connection. By the end of the Treasure Island arc, after everything, the battles, the strategy, the near collapse of the Kingdom of Science, they finally earn a single use of the petrification device. And all of that effort, all of that collaboration across allies and former enemies alike, leads to one moment, Tsukasa's revival. When he is brought back, it isn't just a triumphant return. It's quiet, heavy, and filled with emotion because Tsukasa understands everything that has happened while he was gone. He knows the destruction he caused, and that guilt sits with him the moment he opens his eyes. For someone who once stood at the top as the strongest, now standing among the very people he fought against. Except now, instead of fighting Senku, he's joining Senku on his new mission to fly to the moon. The transition from the Treasure Island arc into the America arc marks a shift in scale and purpose for the Kingdom of Science. Upon resolving the conflicts in Treasure Island, a message from Y-Man, with Senku's voice, gave an order to petrify the whole planet. This message also happened to come from the moon. This makes the goal very clear. In order to solve the mystery of the original petrification event, we must build a rocket to go to the moon and confront Y-Man. After reviving Tsukasa, Senku's goal fully returns to what it was from the very beginning, restoring all of humanity. But this time, to use the collaboration of everyone, he revives to build a rocket. Up until now, progress has been limited by resources, especially revival fluid, which has only been produced in small quantities. If Senku truly wants to bring everyone back, he needs to move from small-scale survival to large-scale reconstruction. This is where corn becomes essential. Corn is a key ingredient for producing large amounts of alcohol, which is necessary to mass-produce revival fluid. Without it, Senku's vision cannot be realized. That's why the Kingdom of Science sets its sights on America, historically one of the largest producers of corn, making it the most logical destination to secure the resources needed to revive humanity on a global scale. More importantly, this decision reinforces the core theme of Dr. Stone. Senku doesn't want a selective world like Tsukasa or Hyuga envisioned. He wants everyone, because true progress comes from the collaboration of all forms of human excellence. By heading to America, the Kingdom of Science is taking the next step toward uniting humanity as a whole and pushing civilization beyond what it once was. When the Kingdom of Science arrives in America, the situation escalates immediately. Instead of an empty land full of resources, they encounter an advanced opposing force led by Dr. Xeno, a scientist who has already begun rebuilding civilization in his own image. When Xeno was a scientist working for NASA, he felt as if the world was ruled by unintelligent people who cared little about making logical decisions. In an almost platonic way, Xeno wants to install himself as King of Earth, a philosopher king who will guide humanity through his intelligence. This is a darker version of Senku's ideology. Senku wants all of humanity to work together, whereas Xeno wants all of humanity to be subject to him. Xeno is a ruthless dictator who would kill anyone who stands in opposition to his rule. One other sharp contrast between him and Senku is that Senku focused on the miracles science can perform, such as medicine, glasses, and even cola. Senku focused entirely on using science to help others. Xeno, on the other hand, who dreams of being a powerful dictator, focused on using science to make powerful weapons. This arc is extremely intense because Senku didn't focus much on creating weapons. In terms of an arms race, Xeno's kingdom has far more military might than the Kingdom of Science, making Senku a massive underdog in this arc. This is the first time he is going against an opponent far more scientifically advanced than he is. This is the most epic war arc of Dr. Stone. Xeno quickly identifies Senku as both a threat and a potential asset, offering him a choice: hand over the revival fluid formula and join his regime. When Senku refuses, Xeno makes a calculated decision. He declares war and even attempts to assassinate Senku, turning what could have been a powerful alliance into a direct ideological conflict. This arc becomes a battle between two mirrored visions of legendary scientists. Xeno represents a darker version of Senku, someone who values knowledge and progress, but only as a means to control humanity rather than uplift it. While Senku believes in reviving everyone to maximize collaboration and human potential, Xeno believes in ruling over a select few, dismissing the rest as inferior. This narrow mindset becomes his downfall, as it leads to internal fractures. Some of his own allies begin to question and betray him, much like what happened in the Stone Wars arc. In contrast, Senku's Kingdom of Science continues to grow stronger through unity, showing that true progress comes not from domination, but from cooperation. Alongside Xeno is Stanley Snyder, whose role adds a different kind of intensity to the arc. Stanley is defined by absolute loyalty, pursuing Senku across the world with relentless precision in order to protect Xeno. Stanley is a dark mirror of Teiju, Senku's best friend. Stanley's character represents how powerful human excellence can become when driven by devotion, even in the service of an opposing ideology. Xeno's collaboration with Stanley represents a darker version of the story's main theme. Despite the conflict, the arc ultimately reinforces Dr. Stone's central theme: the power of collective human excellence. Even in the middle of war, Senku chooses cooperation over destruction, forming a truce with Xeno's group and entrusting them with the responsibility of building a population of 1 million people. What makes this significant is that it's not just geniuses like Senku driving progress anymore. Ordinary people, through collaboration, are now capable of achieving feats once thought impossible, such as creating advanced materials like diamonds. This expansion of capability shows that when people work together, the limits of what humanity can achieve begin to disappear. Senku eventually ends up in a bloody battle with Xeno and Stanley. The America arc ends with one of the most devastating resets in the entire series. The entire world is petrified once again. In the aftermath, only Suika manages to revive on her own, and what follows is one of the most emotionally powerful sequences in Dr. Stone. Completely alone, with no guidance and no support, Suika spends years surviving, learning, and working toward a single goal: bringing Senku Ishigami back. Over the course of 7 years, she gathers materials, rebuilds from scratch, and produces revival fluid entirely by herself. Her struggle highlights one final aspect of the story's theme. While collaboration is humanity's greatest strength, individual perseverance is what keeps that collaboration alive. Through Suika, the series shows that even a single person, no matter how small or overlooked, can carry the will of humanity forward and reignite the path toward rebuilding civilization, ultimately succeeding in reviving Senku and reigniting the Kingdom of Science. Once Senku is back, everything accelerates again. He quickly revives his core allies and restores the structure of the Kingdom of Science, effectively undoing the global petrification event through collaboration. This moment also solidifies his ideological victory over Dr. Xeno. Xeno, having already been pushed to his limits during the America arc, recognizes the scale of what Senku represents: not just intelligence, but the ability to unite people and rebuild from nothing. As a result, Xeno abandons his ambition to rule and instead joins Senku, contributing his scientific brilliance toward a shared goal rather than a divided one. This directly transitions into the final saga, the Stone to Space arc, where the story reaches its climax. With both Senku and Xeno working together, the Kingdom of Science begins mass-producing revival fluid and successfully revives up to 1 million people. This represents the full evolution of Senku's vision, from rebuilding the world to surpassing it. The final arc of Dr. Stone, the Stone to Space Saga, begins with a revelation that completely reframes everything humanity thought it understood about petrification. When everyone is revived after the events of the America arc, they discover that petrification is not just a destructive force. It is also restorative, capable of healing injuries and effectively granting a form of immortality. This realization carries massive implications, especially from a societal perspective, because it challenges the natural limits of life, death, and progress. At the same time, they notice something even more unsettling. Why man has gone silent, implying that its goal was already fulfilled once all of humanity had been petrified, and that it may attack again if humanity rises too far. This looming threat forces the ultimate shift in the story, as even Dr. Xeno, once the ideological opposite of Senku, joins the kingdom of science. Both men now share a singular objective to stop Why Man and prevent the extinction of humanity, and this alliance represents the peak of the story's central theme: collaboration. For the first time, the two greatest scientific minds in the series are working together, combining their knowledge and perspectives into something far greater than either could achieve alone. This is no longer about competing visions of the future, but about protecting humanity itself. From this point forward, the arc becomes a global effort to revive civilization on a massive scale, moving from country to country and bringing back entire populations. The kingdom of science evolves into something far larger than a single group. It becomes a worldwide system of cooperation, where cities are rebuilt and resources are gathered for one ultimate goal: reaching space. This is the most complete expression of the series' theme, as progress is no longer driven by a handful of individuals, but by the collective effort of humanity as a whole. Throughout this process, multiple moments highlight how collaboration is not just about working together, but about aligning human desires and sacrifices. Ryusui's creation of the Drago currency system and introducing the gold standard demonstrates that cooperation often requires a shared sense of value, something tangible that motivates people to contribute. Sai's character arc represents how Ryusui's philosophy of desire can act in action. Chrome and Suika's determination to achieve the two-way rocket shows how even weaker individuals can make a big difference in society. And even Ryusui giving up his seat on the rocket shows the idea of contributing to the desire of the collective, even at the sacrifice of yourself. All reflect different aspects of how human excellence can come together for a greater purpose. All of this culminates in the construction of the rocket itself, a symbol of everything humanity's excellence since the beginning of the story. For Senku, this moment is deeply personal because his dream of going to space existed long before the petrification event. As a child, he pursued knowledge relentlessly, driven by pure curiosity about the universe, and that passion is what shaped him into the scientist he became. Even then, his genius was never rooted in arrogance, but in discipline, humility, and an unwavering desire to understand the world, constantly holding himself accountable whenever he made mistakes. At the same time, Senku's character is defined not just by intelligence, but by his willingness to put others before himself. Throughout the story, he repeatedly risks his life to push humanity forward, whether it's trusting others with dangerous tasks or planning missions that place him in harm's way. This aspect of his character is what makes the final arc so meaningful, because the rocket is the culmination of everyone's efforts, a shared achievement built through trust, sacrifice, and cooperation. Now all that's left is the final confrontation with Why Man, the source of everything since the story's beginning. The final confrontation with Why Man reframes the entire story of Dr. Stone in a way that is both unexpected and deeply thematic. Rather than being a traditional villain with a clear face or personality, Why Man is revealed to be the petrification devices themselves, a form of non-human intelligence whose actions were never rooted in malice, but in a fundamentally different understanding of life and preservation. At first, this reveal can feel almost underwhelming, especially after such a long build-up, but the emotional weight comes from what it represents. The enemy humanity had been fighting the entire time was not hatred or destruction, but a force that believed it was helping humanity evolve, even if that process caused immense suffering. After returning to Earth, Senku doesn't respond to Why Man with revenge or rejection, but with the same mindset that has defined him from the very beginning: understanding and collaboration. Instead of seeing Why Man as something to destroy, he recognizes that its capabilities could be used to push humanity even further. This leads to one of the most ambitious ideas in the entire series: the creation of a time machine, not for power or control, but to achieve the ultimate form of salvation. Senku's goal is no longer just to rebuild civilization, but to save every single human life, including those who died during the initial petrification event, such as victims of plane crashes and disasters that occurred when the world turned to stone. This leads into the sequel manga of Dr. Stone, the 4D Science arc. As they begin working toward this impossible goal, the story introduces a powerful emotional turning point involving a message from the future, supposedly sent by Byakuya Ishigami. This moment reignites Senku's drive on a deeply personal level, pushing him and the entire kingdom of science to accelerate their progress toward completing the time machine. However, it is later revealed that this message was fabricated by Y-Man itself, a calculated lie designed to motivate humanity to continue advancing. On the surface, this feels like a betrayal, especially considering everything humanity has endured, but this is where the story takes a meaningful turn. Y-Man's deception is not born from cruelty, but from a cold, logical understanding of progress, and in its own way, it chooses to reward humanity for reaching this level of collaboration and development. It makes a promise to Senku, one that transforms its role in the story entirely. As the ultimate reward for humanity's growth, Y-Man offers Senku the chance to reunite with his father, Byakuya, by petrifying him at the moment of his death so that he can be revived in the future. This moment carries a quiet but powerful emotional weight, because it brings Senku's journey full circle. In the end, Y-Man does not remain an enemy, but becomes part of the kingdom of science itself, symbolizing the final evolution of the story's central theme. What began as a conflict between humanity and an unknown force ends as a collaboration between them, where even something so alien can be understood and integrated. Through this, Senku achieves everything he set out to do, not just rebuilding civilization and solving the mystery of petrification, but fulfilling a deeply personal dream of reconnecting with his father. The conclusion of Y-Man's story reinforces the core message of Dr. Stone. That progress is not about defeating what we don't understand, but about learning, adapting, and finding ways to move forward together. Even something that once felt like the greatest threat to humanity becomes a tool for its greatest hope. And in that transformation, the story reaches its most profound and emotional resolution. At the very beginning of this video, I made a claim that Dr. Stone is not simply a story about the power of science, but a celebration of all of humanity's excellence. Now, after walking through the entire story from the first revival to the Stone Wars to the journey across the world, and finally to space, you can see that this idea is not just present, but woven into every single arc. Science alone was never enough, strength alone was never enough, and willpower alone was never enough. It was only when these qualities came together, when people chose to work with each other instead of against each other, that progress truly happened. What makes Dr. Stone so powerful is that it constantly reinforces this truth through every major turning point. Senku does not rebuild civilization by himself, and he never could have, no matter how intelligent he is. Every step forward required someone else Teiju's effort, Tsukasa's strength, Chrome's curiosity, Keisuke's craftsmanship, Ryusui's exploration, Gen's understanding of people, and even Xeno's knowledge. Each person represents a different form of human excellence, and it is only when those forms are combined that something greater is created. The story doesn't just tell you that collaboration is important, it proves it over and over again until it becomes undeniable. And that is why the true meaning of Dr. Stone is so inspiring. It's not just telling you that humanity is capable of greatness, it's telling you that you don't have to carry that burden alone. The idea that you need to do everything yourself is completely dismantled by this story. Instead, it shows you something far more powerful, that real progress comes from connection, from trust, and from people choosing to build something together that none of them could create on their own. This is the part where it becomes personal for me. For most of my life, I was a loner. I loved science as a kid, and just like Senku, I had this dream of going to space, of understanding the universe, of reaching something greater than myself. But unlike Senku, I believed that if I wanted to achieve anything meaningful, I had to do it alone. I thought that relying on others was a weakness, that true strength meant handling everything by myself, no matter how difficult it became. But Dr. Stone changed that perspective completely. Watching Senku's journey made me realize something I had been ignoring for years, that even someone as brilliant as him could not move forward without others. Every achievement he reached was the result of collaboration, of trusting the people around him, of allowing others to contribute in ways he never could. And that realization hit me harder than anything else in the story, because it forced me to confront the way I had been living my own life. It made me understand that if I truly want to create something meaningful, something that lasts, something that actually changes the world, I can't do it alone. I need people. I need community. I need to work with others who have their own strengths, their own passions, their own forms of excellence. Just like Senku built the kingdom of science, I realized that I could build something too, not by isolating myself, but by connecting with others and creating something greater together. And when I saw Senku finally achieve his dream of going to space, it wasn't just his victory, it felt like mine too. Through the work of Boichi and Ryukahiro Inagaki, I was able to experience that dream in a way I never thought possible. I felt the weight of that journey, the years of effort, the countless people who contributed to that moment. It wasn't just about reaching space, it was about everything it took to get there, every person who made it possible. That moment reminded me that dreams are never achieved in isolation, and that the path to something great is always built together. So if there's anything you take away from this video, let it be this: you don't have to do everything alone. Whatever your goal is, whatever dream you're chasing, there are people out there who can help you reach it, just like you can help them reach theirs. Collaboration is not a weakness. In my Dragon Ball Super Giant analysis, I talked about how Giant spent his entire life believing that true strength meant isolation. After losing everything, he became obsessed with power and discipline, rejecting trust entirely because he believed relying on others would only make him weaker. But Akira Toriyama completely flips that ideology on its head during the Tournament of Power. Goku doesn't defeat Giant through raw strength alone, but through cooperation, teaming up with Frieza, his worst enemy. That combined effort creates a force Giant cannot overcome, and in that moment, Giant is forced to realize that trust multiplies strength rather than diminishing it. I genuinely believe this was one of Akira Toriyama's final life lessons to the next generation, and it's a lesson that is deeply woven into another one of my favorite manga, Dr. Stone. Collaboration is the strongest force humanity has ever created. It is the reason civilization exists, and it is the reason we continue moving forward. If this video inspired you, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. My name is Kasaki, and I make these videos because I've read over 1,000 manga, and I want to use what I've learned from reading manga to teach you guys powerful life lessons. By subscribing, you're not just supporting me, you're joining a community, a scientific anime brotherhood where we push each other to grow, to improve, and to strive for excellence every single day. Study chemistry, study philosophy, learn, grow, and most importantly, find people with whom you can build something with. Because when the right people come together, there is no limit to what you can achieve. I'm Kasaki, and I'd be happy to have you as part of my community. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.